Hello, I'm Ellie from Move Food and welcome to the first video in our series all about composting. The idea is that by the end of the series you'll know everything you need to know about having your own successful compost at home. Now, the videos that we're going to do in the future are going to be all about the different ways to compost, what you can and can't compost, some of the common problems and the easy solutions to help your compost, and last of all, how best to use your precious compost once you've made it. So for this video, I want to talk about what compost actually is and why it's such a brilliant idea to make your own compost at home for your garden, but also for the environment. Now, when you've used compost, have you ever wondered what it actually is? As well as just being brown stuff that's good for your plants, the basic definition is that it's decomposed organic matter. So something that was once living is broken down into nutrients that can be absorbed by your plants, by your vegetables. Now, this process is happening all around us all the time in Mother Nature. If you imagine a forest and you imagine that every autumn the leaves get dropped off the tree, and then while they're on the forest floor, those leaves break down into smaller and smaller pieces until they're breaking down into their chemicals in the ground, small enough to travel back up the roots of the tree, and those nutrients are then reused to make new leaves. At home, when we compost, we really want to do it in a managed way to make the process a bit more efficient for us. One of the first things that's so great about composting at home is that it's a really easy step towards sustainability. In nature, there's no such thing as waste. Things are just constantly being recycled, and it should be the same in our garden. Did you know that nearly half of the average household bin could have been composted? So what happens when food waste and garden waste goes into a normal bin is it gets transported off to landfill using more fossil fuels, and while it's in landfill it breaks down in a way that produces methane gas, which is even worse than carbon dioxide for contributing to climate change. So if we can keep that waste out of our household bins and compost it instead, not only are we reducing the impact to the environment, but we're also producing a valuable product for ourselves. As a gardener, if you make your own compost, you'll be reducing how much compost you need to buy as well, which is important because although there are some good composts out there that are organic and peat-free, a lot of them still use peat, which is really bad news because that gets dug up from our really precious peatlands and causes irreversible damage. So if you are going to buy commercial compost, please try and buy peat-free. So you might wonder what difference you can make with composting when it comes to climate change. But actually, if you compost for 1 year, it saves climate change gases equivalent to all the carbon dioxide that your kettle produces annually. So it's quite a difference. And not only are you a climate hero for composting, but you also end up with a good product for free. What's not to like? So why is compost so good for your garden? Well, to understand that, we need to think what happens when we grow delicious veg. Every time we harvest something from our garden, so like these spring onions, there we go, we're taking nutrients away in the form of this spring onion, and we'll take it to the kitchen and eat it. And those nutrients will become part of our bodies. But if we just keep taking and taking without replacing any nutrients, then the soil will run out of goodness, and then anything we try and grow will be small and prone to disease and pests. So it's our responsibility to put nutrients back into our soil every year to replace those that we're taking out. So in simplest terms, compost is food for your food. And every time you use it in the garden, you're creating more nutrients in the soil and helping your soil hold on to water better and basically be the best place that your plants can grow to be healthy, big and strong. But there's more to this story than just chemicals, and to really understand that, we're going to have to leave the cosy polytunnel and brave the windy wet weather and go and have a look at some proper homemade compost. So here we are at one of my compost heaps. This was actually a hot pile that we'll go into in a later video that I did a couple of months ago. And I wanted to show you the difference between that commercial compost that I showed you in the polytunnel and some homemade stuff. So if I grab a handful of this here, you can see, if I hold it up, that mine is a lot rougher. It's got chunks and stuff. I can't see any of the kitchen scraps and stuff that was in there, so nothing's sort of in its original shape. You can see some bits of straw and a few bits of eggshells. The commercial compost is a lot drier and a lot more uniform, so mine doesn't look so good. Now, both of these will provide nutrients to your plants, which is a good thing. They'll both do good things for your plants. They both contain the right chemicals like nitrogen and potassium and phosphorus that plants need. But just living on chemicals isn't the be-all and end-all. So for us, it would be like us having a diet purely of vitamin pills and protein shakes. You could tick off the nutrients and chemicals that you need, but it won't in any way be called a balanced, healthy diet. And in the same way, as well as the nutrients in the homemade compost, it's also alive, which is what makes it so special. In here are microorganisms and fungi and minerals and things like that that are missing from the commercial compost, probably. And I'll just introduce you to my neighbour. This is Phyllis. Hello, Phyllis. Are you going to tell us about composting? Oh, yeah. So providing your plants with homemade compost gives them so much more than just the basic nutrients. And the reason why it's so good is because it's alive. And here's my other neighbour. This is Christina, everybody. The goats, Christina and Phyllis. Hello, girls. Now, this soil life that's inside your compost actively helps your plants. So the microorganisms, the bacteria and the fungi, it actually helps your plants resist diseases even more than you would hope for normal. And it also helps them access more nutrients. So they work together with the roots of your plants to make them even more healthy. Now, using pesticides or digging really regularly, quite deeply, that can kill the fungi and the bacteria in your soil. And that's why we always do an organic approach, so we don't use any chemicals, and we also try not to dig unless we really have to, and that helps to keep the soil as healthy and as strong as possible, which gives you healthy and strong plants. Now, I've got into quite a lot of detail in terms of what compost is, and we've talked about climate science and microbiology, but what I really want you to take from this video is that composting is not complicated. I want you to know that it's very simple. It's happening all around us the whole time. You can't really fail. It might take a little bit longer than you'd like, but it will compost. So in the next few videos, I'll be talking about how best to compost, how to make it as easy as possible for you. Next video will be about what you can and can't compost. And so I hope you enjoy that one. You may find that there's a few surprising ingredients that you can put in. But the bottom line is, composting is not complicated. And by having a go, even on a small scale, you can make a real difference.